This is the Microsoft Cloud Show, episode 118, where CJ and I are going to talk about SQL Server on Linux, stretch databases, mulling a Slack bid, and more cloud news. Recorded live March 9th, 2016. Welcome to the Microsoft Cloud Show, the only place to stay up to date on everything going on in the Microsoft Cloud world, including Windows Azure, Office 365, SharePoint, Exchange, Lync, and related technologies. Just the information, no marketing, no BS. I'm Andrew Connell.
And I'm Chris Johnson.
And we're just two dudes telling you how we see it. The Microsoft Cloud Show is sponsored by valid.nl. Valid is a Microsoft Gold partner whose mission is to enable its customers to excel in their business through the innovative use of technology. Valid is always on the lookout for consultants, architects, and engineers. Do you know Azure, Business Intelligence and Analytics, .NET, Office 365, or SharePoint? Look them up on valid.nl. Good morning, CJ. How are you today?
Very well indeed. How about you?
I'm doing pretty good. Hey, yesterday we published yesterday for us, but last week, episode 117, we published an interview with Docker Cloud that you did with the founder, Borjas of Docker Cloud. You did a really good job on that interview. I was bummed I couldn't join. Thankfully, no broken wrist, but I am in a brace. But it was really good. I got a lot out of that one myself personally. So kudos on that interview.
Oh, thanks. I really enjoyed talking to him. He's super smart and intelligent guy and has come up with an amazing product that we use, and so it was quite meaningful to me, right? Because I get to talk to the guy whose idea it was, and I thought it was really fascinating. They were onto a good thing, so I hope everybody else got as much as I did get out of it. So
I know that there was a couple. I talked to one or two people, and they had the same reaction I did. I waited to listen to the interview until the episode was mixed down to where I could hear the whole thing all at once, which I did yesterday, my time yesterday. And the one thing I didn't realize was that you could bring your own servers and install the Docker Cloud agent. So you could and he even mentioned how people are doing that with their laptops. I've got 2 Hyper-V servers that I have used a whole lot. And I know just to do some testing and stuff, I can always go through and stand it up in Azure, but you're burning numbers there, so dollars there. So instead, I set up 5 virtual machines here that are on pretty beefy machines and just say, let's create a cloud. Let's just see, kind of poke around with it and save the money from burning VMs in the cloud.
Yeah, and sort of being able to manage them the same way as if they were in the cloud. Yeah. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. So
yeah, very nice.
Yeah, so cool. I know that opened up the eyes for 1 or 2 people too who were looking into using this tech, but were intimidated by having to manage the servers themselves because they have to do everything on-prem based on the business that they're in, the regulated business that they're in. And they heard that and go, oh, that just totally changed it for us.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's called Bring Your Own Node.
Bring Your Own Node. Very cool.
Node as in server, not node as in JS. Yeah.
Oh, so hey, what you been up to the last week or so?
Working hard. We're on our march towards our beta product. So it's all hands to the pump and feverishly building stuff. So it's fruits of our labors will become apparent later this year, but we're sort of on the march towards getting our first customer on our product. So we're working hard on it. Oh, very cool, very cool. You got a customer already lined up, or like a almost. We're starting to interview customers to find a good fit. Oh. You want your first customers to be the perfect fit, right? That are sort of flexible enough and are okay with it being not a finished product and want to help you so you can help them with their problem. Obviously, it's a give and take, but you want to find somebody who's open to doing that sort of thing. So we're working on that.
Awesome, very cool.
Yeah, how about you?
Just plugging away. Still, I've been working on this project to do a course for. I've been working on a project where I'm doing a course for Microsoft, where their partner group, the cloud solution partners, are who are basically resellers for 365 and Azure. They're putting out a new SDK, and I've been building a course for them around that. And we're getting pretty close to. I think that they're going to go GA with it by the time this recording goes live, and the course will go live sometime in the next week or two. But going out to Microsoft and recording it in the studios, the post on Channel 9 and stuff. So it's been interesting. It's been really interesting working with a lot of these partners because, a lot of people, the way it works is that you essentially are a reseller so that they can go sell Azure and Office 365 and other products, and the customers have a direct relationship with this partner. Microsoft bills the partner for the amount of 365 licenses and Azure usage and all that stuff. And then the partner then bills the customer for that. And so they've got, the options to mark up the rates or to provide support on top of it or consulting on top of it. Basically, the partner is the point of contact for the customer instead of going direct and buying it from Microsoft. And it's interesting. I mean, some of these partners are, they do $500,000 a month in business with Microsoft. And so seeing how, diving into the different Azure APIs to find out how to calculate resource usage and how they can forecast costs and provide value. It's been with the different APIs that are available, and it's been really interesting. So so we're getting close to wrapping that up. But
very nice,
good stuff here. But hey, so I know today we talked about we have a news episode where we're gonna not to catch up on a bunch of news, but there has been some things that have been going on recently, and we just want to make sure that everybody's aware of different news going on in the business. So I guess I'll start with you. I'll let you again, all these links are in our Flipboard magazine. So feel free to jump over to our Flipboard magazine, just go to the show notes to get that link, and you'll find these different articles that we're referencing there. So CJ, why don't you start us off here and share some of the stuff that's going on?
Well, so I think the big one that's on everybody's lips right now and mind, everybody's talking about it, of course, but everybody's thinking about it, is this move of SQL Server is going to become available on Linux.
Yeah, that's very cool.
And Scott Guthrie posted a blog on the 7th of March, and Scott runs the Cloud and Enterprise group at Microsoft, obviously, who are responsible for SQL Server. And it's got a big SQL Server Heart Linux at the top of the page. And so the first private preview, I believe, is already out with this, but I think he said mid 2017 will be when it releases, but the ability to run SQL Server on Linux, which is pretty exciting. I don't know which flavors of Linux. I don't know if it'll be any old random flavor, but I suspect there'll be some supported flavors. Red Hat, 100%, of course. Yeah. So this is a really fascinating move, and I don't know what your take on it is, but my take is that developers are building apps using Docker and Node and PHP and all of those sorts of things, and when they're evaluating databases, they're not going to go, oh, I'm going to get a database that requires some sort of big server install to run, or some sort of on the box. They're going to pick something that is light enough weight that they can run it easily in a dev environment, like we were talking about a couple of weeks ago with running Postgres in containers, but also when they move to stage in production, be able to run it at proper production and enterprise scale. And so I think this move is a nice move from Microsoft on making SQL Server fit that bill more so than it's done in the past, right? In the past, developers had to run it locally or in a virtual machine, but they didn't have the flexibility of being able to run in containers or like you would with Postgres or Mongo or something along those lines. So I think it's a nice move for that. I also think it makes it super easy for enterprises to run this stuff in the cloud better. And they might be standardizing on Linux for certain types of workloads, and this means that Microsoft doesn't get locked out of being a database vendor when they've standardized on Linux being a workload or the OS for data workloads or something.
Yeah, I think it's a really good move. I don't see a lot of people think that I saw a lot of the tweets and everything that came out of it, primarily from the Microsoft crowd. Some things were like, why would they do this? Why would they go in this direction? Kind of confusing. But for the most part, I definitely agree with you. I think that the big thing that is interesting to me about this is you look at a lot of large organizations or even small organizations, and a lot of them, they prefer to use Linux for their hosted environment, for their servers, because the licensing costs are significantly less than looking at something like what Microsoft has to offer if they're doing stuff on-prem. I know we got one customer that they have been seriously, not one customer, I have one person I'm pretty good friends with who their organization, they've been contemplating, trying to find ways to move more and more workloads to Linux, not to get away from Microsoft, but they do it as a cost-saving thing. And for right now, when that happens, Microsoft just completely loses out on that discussion for SQL, which is one of their biggest cash cows for enterprise sales. So I think it makes a lot of sense to be able to at least be in that discussion. I think it makes a lot of sense to be able to have that as another like customer base for a very stable and mature product. I'm really curious to see any kind of discussions they have or any more detail they share about this. I believe the day we're recording this, or we're recording on Wednesday, March the 9th. I think it's on March the 9th or 10th that Satya and Scott Gu are actually going to be at a data conference. They're going to talk a lot more about it. So, of course, we don't have the insight into it in recording this, but I'm curious to see from that conference and from Build what things they're going to talk about with this. I mean, my biggest question with this is, what are we going to see in terms of feature parity between Windows SQL and Linux SQL? Is it going to be, are they going to get it to 100%? You know, when we go to 2017, I had a comment to someone on Twitter or on Facebook when they posted this, and this isn't meant to sound like a negative nanny, but you know, the cynic in me says, okay, so what's going to get between now and the release in 2017? Yeah. What's going to get cut? And is this going to be like, are we looking at SQL Express on Linux, which I doubt, or are we looking at it going all the way from the BI stack is also going to be able to be hosted on Linux? We'll see. Yeah.
Yet to be seen, I think. And will it end up being at feature parity, or will it end up being a sort of an ugly sibling?
Yeah. You know, one of the things that you see, I mean, we talked about, like you said, back in episode 116 with developers that are wanting to move to more of this more containerized workloads or containerized infrastructure. I know that, you know, for you guys, that SQL could not be an option for you guys to host because the way you're doing stuff, you want everything to be able to run in a container, but then use hosted services. And that's just not possible with SQL today.
Exactly.
With SQL Server today. So I know that drove some of your decisions, and this just helps them play in that market.
Also, like, let's not discount the keep it simple explanation of this, which is Microsoft wants to be on all the platforms, right? It's building apps for all sorts of different things now. And, you know, by default, you're missing out on a huge bit of the market if you're not letting your server apps run on other people's OSs.
Yeah, I had a bit of a blog post about this recently too. I just like to see Microsoft have the follow through on this whole we want to run everywhere. They make these promises, yet they're not following through on their commitments everywhere. So specifically around seeing like add-ins for our Office running on iOS and on Mac, or Skype for Business is a real client on OS X. Their timelines, they just consistent. The only thing consistent about their time, about these different things, are the fact that they can't hit their timelines, nor can they share details on when we can expect it.
Yeah, that is annoying. So I think, but hey, SQL Server, the GUI has done a pretty good job of this stuff in the past. So if there's anybody that can do it, it's him.
Absolutely. Totally agree.
Nice. What else we got?
Microsoft had some pricing and service updates that came out that are going to hit. We have things like the Azure Search Basic tiers in public preview. They also have the Active Directory identity protection is also now in public preview, and the database query store in public preview. This came out in a newsletter on March the 2nd. That I just wanted to highlight, make sure that people were aware of some of this stuff. I know that they've got a lot of Azure customers already get this, but they just a bunch of generally available and public preview stuff. I know other things that came out in generally available, things like Database Query Performance Insight, SQL Database Index Advisor, and the Database Query Store. All of these products are now all generally available in Azure as of March.
Gotcha. I wait for the flurry of announcements like this as we come to Build, right? Like this is going to get ridiculous.
Yeah, that was the funny thing about SQL on Linux, is that I saw that a bunch of people were complaining about, oh, I guess that was going to be introduced at Build. And they're like, no, Scott Gu just went early. But you see Azure do that. They seem to, in the 3 or 4 weeks before Build, you see lots of little things start to kind of slip out.
Yeah, they're going to start very managed staggering of news and getting the stuff out that they don't want to make a big splash at Build about. Like, so the SQL Server one that we just talked about, that's obviously been deemed not important for a big splash at Build, or to get ahead of the news. And they want to save their cookies for the 3 to 5 big things that they want to actually have land at Build. So it'll be interesting to see what those are, see what they focus on.
I had one more thing to just actually share about on the SQL side. Is we're on kind of a database kick here with their Linux and a bunch of GA and public preview stuff. Is that another thing that Microsoft had done is they they're launching this thing called the SQL Server Stretch Database Service. Have you seen this?
I read about it, but not in any great depth.
Yeah, so this is part of the SQL Server 2016 release. But what's interesting about this is the cloud aspect to it. So what this does is it's going to allow DBAs to set up certain tables to stretch from on-prem infrastructure to the cloud. So essentially what you do is that once you have a table that's been set up as a SQL stretch database, admins can then specify the length of time after which data is automatically moved from on-prem SQL to an instance in Azure. So applications that are going to query the database table will then be able to see both data stored on-prem and data stored in Azure. So it's kind of like log shipping, but it makes it a little bit easier, a little more transparent for the users.
Yeah, gotcha. Very nice. I got another one.
Go.
Microsoft mulled an $8 billion bid for Slack. That's pretty cloudy. So this is an interesting one. First up, I'm not surprised they looked at Slack. Like, of course, you do your due diligence on them. I know Microsoft's been worried about Slack in the productivity space for some time. Like, it's a tool that's becoming more and more popular. That said, it's a pinprick in the ocean in terms of size, right? It's got like 2.3 million daily active users, which is next to nothing in comparison to the productivity number of people using productivity apps every day. But it's gaining pretty quick. Like, it's growing in popularity, and it gets a lot of good news. So I'm not surprised they looked at it. $8 billion though, like, I'm not surprised they didn't buy it. But it sounds like, if you believe the reports, that Satya and Bill said, yeah, this is crazy. We're better to put that $8 billion towards Skype and our own, technology, and build something, which, the skeptic in me says, yeah, you're not going to solve this for $8 billion. And the opportunity cost of it taking, 3 to 5 years for you to do it is worth the $8 billion alone. Mm. But they obviously think they can do a good job for that money and in a reasonable period of time.
Yeah, Slack's a product I absolutely love. I found the $8 billion that was really interesting, because the last time I saw a valuation for Slack was somewhere in the $2 to $3 billion. Yeah. So that's a huge, and that was, I think, at the end of last year, or like third quarter of last year. So in less than a year, this would be paying a huge premium, which I know that's what you do when you do an acquisition. But
yeah, and the premium, I think, is like the cost equation for Microsoft is that premium worth the time to market, right? And are they afraid enough of missing the boat and being on the back foot? And is it worth that premium? That's, you'll pay anything if you're desperate enough to have your foot in the market. So yeah, I'm not surprised they didn't do it, because that's a big pill to swallow. But I'm sort of conflicted. I really wanted them to buy it, but I'm also like, no, leave it alone, because you're going to mess it up. Yeah,
that was my attitude too. Is that I was like, no, don't do that. Slack is interesting. They've got 2.3 million daily users, active users. 675,000 of them are paying users. So, I mean, it is a sizable product. It's not a sizable product when you look at it and you compare it to things like Office 365 or in Azure or traditional Microsoft products that you see. So it's not absolutely huge. It's incredibly popular, though, among a lot of people. I know I've seen some stuff on Medium. People have been posting recently about how they're breaking up with Slack because of what they find it to be a distraction or whatever. I personally think that a lot of those, it's like anything. It's how you use it. It's how you use it. I mean, that one was frustrating, because I got respect for the guy that wrote that, but it's all how you use it. You could totally be distracted by it. You could totally be distracted by email or Facebook or Twitter all day, but it's how you effectively use it. And the part that I found to be the most confusing about this article is not so much that Microsoft mulled it, like you said, makes a lot of sense, but the title of the article is Microsoft mulled an $8 billion bid for Slack, will focus on Skype instead. I'm like, I don't see those as competing products. I mean, I see them as having some complementary pieces to them, but I don't see that as a compete. I mean, I can see where you could try and take Skype to something like that, but no one's going to think that about Skype.
No, not as the products exist today, but Skype as a group definitely feel like they're on the hook to deliver more modern collaboration experiences like Slack, right?
Mm-hmm.
They've got all the bits of the technology, right? They've got the instant messaging angle, they've got the messaging angle, they've got the video angle, they've got the audio angle. Slack just added audio in beta today or yesterday or this week or something, right? So I can click a phone in Skype and Slack and call somebody. Like that's some sort of revolutionary, groundbreaking feature blows my mind. It's not. It's been around for decades.
Yeah.
Slack are just adding it, right? Skype's had it for yonks. They've got all the pieces. Microsoft has every single piece of this puzzle already, but they're failing to execute and put them into a package that can compete. And that's what's so disappointing, is that they've got all the different pieces of the puzzle in different groups. So Skype own the messaging, voice, and video angle of it, but they're not. But they haven't typically in the past been a great, business productivity tool or content creation tool or any of those things. And so that's all scattered between different groups at Microsoft. And bringing those things together seems to be Microsoft's problem. And bringing them together in a way that, in a compelling package, seems to be really their stumbling block. They've got everything they need to compete. And I guess Satya and Bill went, $8 billion? Come on, we must be able to figure this out for $8 billion and bring the things we've already got together. And I know that the Skype team feel like they're on the hook to compete against Slack in this space. Not with the product they've got today, though, but with the product they want to build.
Can you do it for $8 billion? You can do just about anything. I can do it for $3 billion. I don't know if it's. I'll give it to you as a bargain.
Yeah, I don't think it's necessarily. Yeah, if you got a bunch of people and said, "Here's $8 billion, go to town, deliver it." I think it's like internal organization and time to market is the equation there, right? Because they're missing out on time. That said, Slack's and you say 2.3 million customers is a lot. That is nothing, right? Really, it's when you're talking about 365 as a whole, even though the majority of customers are still on-prem, it's got like 65 million monthly active users, right? So Slack in comparison to just 365 alone is nothing. You look at Skype, it's like 500 million monthly active users or something ridiculous like that, right? 2.3 for $8 billion, you'd be buying headlines.
Yeah.
And that's it. Paying for users, right, is that you're not buying the users.
Was it $1 billion for Skype or $2 billion for Skype? And they got
I thought it was 7.
A couple hundred. 7?
Yeah, I think it was 7. Yeah.
7 for a couple 100 million users, and Slack 2 million for 8 billion.
Yeah, the numbers don't add up. In terms of users, they'd be purely buying time to market.
So I've got another one here. This is coming up on April the 16th. Microsoft is spearheading a global Azure Bootcamp. So many places around the world, anybody can host them. They're basically providing the content. They're hosting many of them, but they're also handing over the content, the plan, giving guidance on how to actually execute to put a global boot camp on for Azure. And they're showing different ways of doing it. You can go to the site that we got linked up or just do a search for the Azure Global Boot Camp. And it's all going to be on April the 16th. One of the things that they're doing is that if you have like an algorithm that you want to be able to run some special stuff, some special algorithm that you've defined, or created for a certain project. They're running contests where you can actually you can set it up to where your code will run on thousands of cores across Azure and the cloud on April the 16th. So trying to get a bunch of people to take a look at this and just getting up to speed on building some of your first Azure stuff. I know it's something that we're hosting one here in Jacksonville where I live. Unfortunately, I won't be there. I'll be out of town, but I know it's they're all over the world. So I think they have currently confirmed 115 different events. They got another 56 locations that are pending, tons of locations worldwide. So this is open to a global audience.
Very nice. Hey, you ready for some buzzword bingo?
Yeah, go for it.
Microsoft has enhanced the holistic agile security platform. It touted last November. How many buzzwords can you fit in one sentence, I tell you? It cracks me up. Holistic agile security platform. What even does that mean? I feel like standing up and yelling bingo from the back of the room. No, but seriously, there's an article we've posted in the Flipboard called Microsoft Strengthens Security Tools for Azure and Office 365, which is kind of a little more down to earth than holistic agile security platform. But it's basically a set of more intelligent tools and reports and machine learning and things to help secure your cloud assets from hacking and attack and being smart about it. So things like Active Directory, on-the-fly machine learning and analysis of login attempts and things. They get about 14 billion logins a day, and being smart about when something is under attack and using sort of advanced threat detection and protection, I guess, to mull through all those and decide which ones are valid and which ones aren't. And the idea is at the end of the day, they're going to keep your stuff more secure by applying things that only they can do because they've got the scale and the data to do it.
Interesting. You get a. I'm going to call Yahtzee for your buzzword bingo there.
Yahtzee.
Yeah. So I have, I've been, I just throw something else out there too, is that we had a talk, show that we did a couple weeks ago, and I realized that when we were talking about it, I didn't understand as much about all the different clouds that are out there aside from just Azure. So the big ones are going to be, Azure, AWS is the big guy on the block. Google's got a cloud, Rackspace, DigitalOcean, a bunch of those guys. DigitalOcean is more of a hosting thing, but all these different options that are out there. And so the biggest one that I felt like I knew the least about was the Google Cloud, and specifically around developers. And so I just did a couple little searches here and there and found out that there's a podcast that had recently started called the Google Cloud Podcast. They've got, I think, maybe something like 15 or 16 episodes right now. But I found it really interesting to go I subscribed to it and listened to all the back episodes and just kind of get an idea of what their offering is and comparing it to what we know about Azure, what we know about AWS. I guess, the nice thing is that everybody has got a different take on things. Google's take is very interesting in the sense that, they're pretty much everything cloud, nothing hosted. They do have VMs, but they get some pretty cool offerings. So I'd recommend everybody take a look at the Google Cloud Podcast. I think it's just gcppodcast.com. They're also on Twitter, GCP Podcast, but definitely recommend going and taking a listen to that.
Yeah, I added it to my Overcast application, and want to go take a listen to some of those. Yeah,
I found the one that was kind of interesting. I had totally forgotten about this, but I forget which episode it is. But Chris Sells, who is the old Microsoft folks are going to remember that name. Chris Sells is actually a developer evangelist for Google now, and so it was really interesting to hear him on the show and talking about what he does over at Google now and his background and stuff. So
yeah, he was from the Sells brothers, right? Like that was their
yeah, it was good stuff.
Very nice. Hey, have you got picks?
I have one. Well, that was one of my picks, I should say, is the Google Cloud Podcast. But I have another one that's completely unrelated to tech. So it's related to what I'm doing this weekend. I'm going down with a good friend of mine to the St. Petersburg Grand Prix, the first opening weekend of the IndyCar season.
Woohoo!
Yeah, so we got 3 days of open wheel racing, Pirelli Challenge, seeing Ferraris, Lamborghinis, Bentleys, McLarens, Cadillacs, the CTS, not like the big Escalades. Seeing a bunch of racing and stuff, super trucks and stuff. And to go along with that, there is an article out of a Canadian sports site called sportsnet.ca. The title of the article is How to Get Back into a Race Car After Nearly Dying in One.
Ooh, yeah.
So the subtitle of this, people may be familiar with this name. Less than a year ago, James Hinchcliffe almost bled out at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and now he's racing and returned to the track. So essentially, just for those who don't know the story, last year during practice or qualifying prior to the Indy 500, James Hinchcliffe, who's a absolutely hilarious personality, he hit the wall. Something broke on the car. He hit the wall, and I think it was something going like over 200 miles an hour. And one of the metal arms that goes from the front of the nose of the car out to one of the wheels, it broke and it punctured the tub part of the car where the driver sits. And it actually, I'll spare you some of the details, but it skewered him. So it basically went in one leg, came out the other, went into his torso. And when the medics got there, they saw that he was effectively bleeding out, and he's lucky to have been alive. But it's one of those things that, with what you do, you got to get over a big mental hurdle to be able to get back in the race car. And I follow him on Instagram, follow him on Facebook. His pictures have been, he's just got a hilarious personality, showing a picture of like a bloody shirt saying, putting up there, just doing a selfie with it and saying too soon. But it's a really good article. So I'll tag this in Flipboard for people to take a read to this. It's a rather long article, but it's really interesting.
Yeah, that's a hell of a recovery and an interesting story. I haven't read it yet, but looking forward to it.
Yeah. How about you? You got any picks?
I've got a pick completely unrelated to technology. Well, sort of. I mean, mostly. Flight of the Conchords are touring again. If you don't know Flight of the Conchords, there's a show on HBO called Flight of the Conchords. They're New Zealand's fourth most popular folk comedy duo. That was a joke.
Went right over my head.
Brett McKenzie and Jermaine Clement, they are absolutely hilarious. They're from New Zealand, of course, so I'm a bit biased. I went to university with them, weirdly enough, but they do stand-up comedy, and we saw them. My wife and I went and saw them when they were in Seattle last time they were touring a number of years ago, and I have never laughed so hard in my life. God, it was funny.
No kidding.
So funny. And the show was pretty hilarious, but nowhere near as good as their stand-up comedy. So if you go up to Flight of the Conchords website and take a look and see all their touring dates and things, I think it's their North American tour. And they haven't toured for some time, and so this is a big deal. And tickets to the Seattle, they're playing in Merrimore Park in Redmond, which is an outdoor venue, and the tickets sold out in like 15 minutes. So
oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's going to be super popular, but yeah, really, really funny, and definitely worth a watch.
Awesome. Very cool.
Go check them out on YouTube and go look for Business Time, and you'll know what I mean.
Business Time. Okay, I'm going to go.
Business Time. Yeah.
I'll go look that up.
Yeah, it's probably the most famous one. But anywho, that's my pick.
Cool. All right, man. You got anything else you want to share with our listeners?
No, good fun talking. Hey, you're in Redmond next week, right?
I am in Redmond next week. I am actually leaving the racetrack in St. Petersburg, driving all the way back to Jacksonville and to pick up the kids, and then racing to the airport to catch a flight out of Jacksonville to Redmond. But yeah, I'm in Redmond next week to record that class. So we actually get to do a show or maybe even two together in person.
Yes.
So be good to hang out.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. We'll see you next week.
Absolutely, man. So until then, we will talk to everybody later.
Cheers.
If you have a question for us, go to microsoftcloudshow.com/questions, where you can submit it as text or record it as a WAV or an MP3 file and provide a link so that we can play your question on the show. Our theme music is an excerpt from Evaporated Eric by Monk Turner, used under Creative Commons. You can subscribe to us in iTunes by searching for The Microsoft Cloud Show or via RSS at microsoftcloudshow.com, where you'll also find a full transcript and show notes of each episode. You can find us on Facebook searching for The Microsoft Cloud Show or on Twitter at MS Cloud Show. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.